Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Ask a CEO. I'm Greg Demetrio, your host for today. And today we have Bob Lachance, who's a serial entrepreneur. He started and run two very successful real estate coaching programs, two technology companies, even in a used appliance company, which is a little out of the order. Okay, I got to hear about that. Bob's completed over 800 real estate deals. And in 2014, he created his present company, Reva Global, and it's a global staffing company providing virtual assistance. Bob, that's quite a pedigree for somebody who played professional hockey, really.
Yeah.
I love transitions. I love transformations. I was a New York City detective, and now here I am running a top shelf integrated marketing company in New York and on a video podcast. Really, this is amazing, right? And you went from hockey to real estate millionaire, entrepreneur, trainer, educator, deal maker, and now you're on a staffing company. You got to tell me how that happened.
It definitely wasn't easy. I mean, obviously, jumping from what we did in our past to starting our own business, becoming CEOs, it's definitely not easy. And that's one of the things that, I talked to a lot of my friends that actually are running companies as well. It takes time and it takes long-term vision and it takes working with people, et cetera. So it's not easy, but I'll take a quick step back. I played professional hockey for 8 years, 4 years here in the US, 4 years in Europe. And when I had to make my first transition to being a professional hockey player to everyday life and starting your own company, I didn't know what I was going to do. So before I actually was making that transition, I started reading a lot of books. And I know you're an avid reader as well. So that's something that I think that is very, very important to start learning different industries and on what happens in this industry. I specifically chose real estate because my father was a contractor growing up. He went through some tough times, back in the late 80s when recession hit in the late 80s and the sky fell. And at that time, interest rates were, really, really high compared to what they are today. But just seeing through that lens, I saw the interesting times that he went through to dig out of it as well. And I chose real estate because of his contracting background and just, I understood at that time conceptually what that was. So it's interesting for me to make the step from hockey to jumping into real estate. That was a little bit of what I saw growing up. So that's the reason why I chose that background. You let me know how deep you want me to get.
No, you just keep talking. Time is yours.
All right, perfect. So, for me personally, when I made that decision to do that, there was one other choice, and the reason why I did it as well. I left school early. So my last year, when I went to Boston University, I was on a 4-year scholarship, and I left two core classes early. So my choice was either I had to go back to school and go back to a semester. So I would have to go back. I live in Connecticut, and to drive up to Boston, I would have to go to Boston University to get a degree from their school. Nothing was online, and I had to take those classes. So I decided, you know what? If I go back to school, I would always have a fallback position. And I never, ever, for me personally, I know not everyone thinks like I do in reference to that, but if I had a fallback position, I would have probably, when times got tough, I would have gone back to that degree and found someone to hire me and jumped into that side of it. So for me,
what you did was take out your safety net.
I did 100%. And I think that is, with a lot of CEOs and a lot of entrepreneurs out there, having a safety net is something that, you don't jump in with 2 feet in business. You'll always have 1 foot out the door, not 2 feet in. You'll have 1 foot out. And
I always like to say that when I started this business, failure was not an option. I was scared out of my face. It had to work, and I had to put 1,000% into it. So if you have a safety net, well, okay, fine. If it doesn't work, I'll do this. That doesn't work in business sometimes.
And this is back in 2004, right? We're in 2020 right now, and I own a staffing company. I never, ever would have thought that I would own a virtual staffing company with a business here and in the Philippines. It's a global, it's out of my wildest dreams, coming from a hockey, literally living in a hockey locker room. And,
wow.
It's not a knock on hockey at all, but when I'm in a hockey locker room with other hockey players, they're not thinking about business. I wasn't thinking about business, right? It's just,
No.
you are so focused on, trying to win a championship every single year. And the
I mean,
transition.
it's so different. It's just so
Yep.
different. It's night and day. I mean, you're out there playing a very physical sport, and then you're thinking about business in the back of your head. I don't know how the two sides of your brain work, but that is a pretty cool accomplishment. So listen, so all businesses have a start. They have a maturing process, and with hard work and a little luck, they establish a profitable, durable organization. Tell me what that progression was like for you.
You know what? The progression actually started when I decided to jump into real estate, because what I do now is the making of what I started at the beginning. And it's the people that you meet along the way and the relationships that you make really mold what you do today. And so the steps that I took, I met a mentor right when I started in real estate. He guided me in the right direction. I then started my first real estate education coaching program with my mentor. He was an incredible mentor. Still a good buddy of mine today. We actually run a podcast on Fridays called the Friday Coffee Break every Friday that we do live at 10 a.m. Every Friday. And he actually taught me, number one, you have to be good to people. Number two, never burn a bridge. And number three, never play in the gray area, because if you play in that gray area, once you step over the line, it's going to become easy to do the bad things in business. And that is one takeaway that I do want to make sure that everybody listening, please don't play in that area, man, because it gets too easy to go the other side.
The hole gets very deep. The hole gets very deep once you start to dig it. You're absolutely correct. And trust is the commodity that you have to sell first above everything else. So that's really
100%.
really good thinking on your part. And I think that takes most entrepreneurs a much further way than those guys who want to, dick around the edges. That's
100%.
Never good.
Yep.
Never good. So you created a resource for real estate practitioners and others that frees up their time so they can focus on what's important, making deals and making money. How do you get that to happen?
It's actually funny. I've always been, even when I played professional sports, I was always a guy who didn't care if I scored the goal, but I would set people up for the goal. So for me, I've always been service oriented. I've always looked at how can I help somebody win, right? For me, it's always team. You're only as good as your team is. I don't care if you're the best player in the world, you still need a team to help win. Same thing within business. So I was always looking for a service or a product to help create for our coaching students and the individuals and entrepreneurs that I worked with every single day. So 2013, I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. And a virtual assistant was someone that could help take tasks off of your plate. So with the training background and the real estate education background, I figured, why don't I marry the two? So I took all of the training platform that I helped create, I put it together with virtual assistants in another country and made a affordable resource for real estate professionals here today. So I know for me personally here in Connecticut, I know you're in New York, for me to hire someone with a 4-year college degree, it's going to cost me about $50,000 a year. And that's most of the time minimum, right?
At least that much, especially in our region.
Yep. So I picked the Philippines because they have 4-year college degrees, and it's very affordable for me to use that resource and bring it over here to the United States. And they're incredible workers. The capacity is very, very high.
So what qualifies somebody to be a virtual assistant?
So a lot of us look at virtual assistants in different countries as call center, right? And that's a huge industry. Call center industry in the Philippines is the top industry that they have. So what we created is a work from home environment within the call center industry. So we are ahead of our times when it comes to COVID right now. People are scrambling, right? Trying to work from home. I started that back in 2014. So again, we're ahead of the curve. So our transition now is we don't have to transition because that's just the way it works.
You've already done it. You've already been working virtually all along. So what does a customer profile look like? And when did you find how to reach out to them? Once you identified your business model and who your customers might be, How did you reach out to them?
Yep, very good question. So our customer profile is real estate professionals. So whether you're a real estate agency, whether you're a real estate agent, a real estate investor that invests in properties, whether it's wholesaling, rehabbing, buy and holds, or if you're a property manager, right? So they encompass, those are the tasks that we train on. So once we identified that, I tested it for 2 years to make sure it was proof of concept and it was an industry that clients wanted. Right when we did that, that's when we started marketing. So our marketing channels are jumping on podcasts like this, being part of masterminds, running our own podcast, if you will. We have marketing. I do a lot of speaking and in a lot of different groups, if you will, mastermind groups, online groups within Facebook. So we do Facebook marketing, LinkedIn marketing, masterminds. A lot of, before obviously the pandemic hit, I was flying around to different organizations and speaking and teaching and training.
So that was, you just covered my next question. If you had a marketing plan, obviously you did. So I like to ask the CEOs this question, and I try to get them to drill down a little bit. So what is one of the foundational skills or characteristics that you need to be a successful leader?
You know what, I think we all have to look at the actions that we take. And if you're looking for people to follow you, you need to make sure that you are, number one, someone that people would follow. Do you have ethics? Do you have integrity? Do you do the right thing? When there are challenges that happen, how do you react? Do you take a step back? Because we all know when emotions are high, intelligence are low. Do you show your true colors, right? When things are tough.
Are you talking about me?
You know, we are all, I'm telling you, we're all the same. We just have to really, it's how somebody reacts to big challenges, because as CEOs, you are going to run into challenges. It's part of our game. I mean, if you really look at it, once you hit a certain level, people are attacking you all the time. It's really part of the game. Think about this. If you have a client that now is a big part of your business, and if someone from your organization leaves, it happens all the time in the insurance world. I have a very good buddy that's high up, just left one company. As soon as his non-compete is done, guess what? They're going after those clients and they're taking them in. It's part of how this works. So what do we do as CEOs to create loyalty within our organization? We're talking a little bit about this offline. That's the gold right there. That
is, you know, we've had people come and go. And, you know, in this business, the creative side of it thinks that they're always looking for a different place to exercise their creativity. So how do I do that? I try to make a culture here that I wrap my arms around them and I make them feel wanted and loved and appreciated and all that good stuff. But the bottom line is some of them are going to leave. Some of them you're going to have to ask to leave. And it's just a changing environment. And sometimes you lose the really important ones that you never thought you'd lose. And those are the ones that rock your socks a little bit.
That's exactly right. And good. But one of the important things is I think we have to be okay with it, right? We can't, and I think, and this is something I've learned, you know, for being in business for a long time, since 2004, is we have to train up. If they leave, be happy with them if they leave. Because if we have a fixed mindset and we don't say, all right, you know, if there is a better role for them somewhere else, we have to be okay with it. We have to be happy with it, because if you really hold on that tight, us as entrepreneurs, us as CEOs, we will never grow. And if you're not happy for someone, it's not a good way to live life.
And if you talked about a leaving, that's only going to last for a little while, because they really wanted to leave anyhow. So you're better off wishing them well. Tell them, listen, don't lose the phone number in case you need to come back. We'll talk to you. Things like that. And I think that it's a better way to go. I mean, you just have to be a human who appreciates people. And I think that, I know in my business, I'm a very gregarious guy. I like to go around. This COVID thing drove me nuts because I wasn't with my people, right? But that's what you have to do you operate the way you would operate at home. And you're better off, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I do want to highlight is never burn a bridge, no matter what it is, right? If you lose a client, don't burn a bridge with that client, because they may come back. You know, you may be stung a little bit. Something might, you know, go wrong or how it happened. Never burn a bridge, because there's a lot of relationships that I look back 10 years ago now are benefiting me because, maybe things didn't work out 10 years ago, but it's how I reacted. And this is advice I got very lucky from my first mentor that I had. He gave me that advice when I started, and it's 15 years later.
You're doing my interview for me because that was my very next question. What was the best
I'm ahead of you.
You're pretty good at this.
See, these are really fun for me because I think there's a lot of takeaways for all of us, because being a CEO is a lonely job sometimes.
It can be.
And the reason is because the stuff that you experience and I experience, that everyone listening to this call experiences something different. Because when you look at your business, you have your marketing channels here that brings in business. Well, what happens if one marketing channel doesn't work? Who do you call to talk to say, hey, what are some ideas we could bounce back, back and forth with each other?
True.
And those are really, really important. Maybe it's a staffing question. Maybe it's a question about operations, accounting, taxes, whatever that is. There always needs to be someone that you need to associate yourself with, just like yourself, to bounce stuff off.
Well, several years ago, we established an advisory board for the company because I needed somebody to hold me to task. I needed somebody to hold my feet to the fire and say, Greg, did you get that done? Otherwise, lollygag, and it'll get done when it gets done. And you get busy doing the business of the business, and you don't take care of the strategy part. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's very, very, very important to have people in your network that you trust and you can bounce things off of. Yes. So Bob, I know that, we're going on pretty long here, but that's okay because I love these types of conversations. So our audience is a mix of CEOs and those people striving to get to the corner office. What advice would you give them in terms of being leaders in their companies today?
Like I said before, I think loyalty is very important, but I think it's stick by your word. So if you're going to set a vision for your team, make sure that vision is very clear, because what I see happen sometimes is the vision is cloudy and it's very hard to follow somebody with a cloudy vision. Mm-hmm. Because, people will now look at you as somebody who is, not clear on what they actually want. And it's very difficult. It's I bring this back to professional sports when I played sports. When your coach has a clear vision on what he wants, whether it's a system, whether it's winning a championship, whether it's putting the pieces together, right? It's easier to follow that coach and believe in him. So it's the same thing as being a CEO. When you set a clear vision on where you want to go and what path you want to go, it's easy to have your teammates and team members follow you.
I agree. We had a major business initiative several years ago, and I remember bringing the entire company together to explain to them what I saw and where we were going. And I tell you what, it made all the difference in the world because I got 100% buy-in and everybody was pulling with the same set of oars in the same direction. Wonderful, wonderful way to go about it.
Greg, let me just add to that for 2 seconds. And one of the things, you nailed it though, and one of the things that I've made mistakes on, and I know a lot of us, it's also communication. Sometimes we don't think that we need to tell our team certain things, and we have to make sure that we're very transparent and communicate what that looks like in a very good manner. And I've been at fault at that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we learn as we go, right? You wonder, well, if I tell them this, are they going to get worried? They're going to get nervous. What is if things are getting tough? You got to be honest with them because they have lives and you're responsible for them to a certain extent for their livelihood. They look to you to run a good business so they can be assured there'll be a paycheck next week.
100%.
And in today's world, that's a very difficult thing to do. Yep. And if CEOs are not too scared right now, then they're brain dead.
That's right.
So listen, all right, Bob, I appreciate it very, very much, but I'd like you to tell the audience how they can get in touch with you and just let them know what you can do.
Absolutely. So you could reach out to me. I'll give you my direct email address, but our website is www.revaglobal.com. That's REVA global.com. You can email me direct, bob@revaglobal.com as well. We also have a medical division too, that we launched that my wife runs with insurance verifications, etc.
Very nice. Very good. Yep. Bob, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you'll come back at another time when you invent another company.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.